Welcome to Business Perfect Formula, the podcast where we break down the mysteries surrounding the world of funding. I'm your host, Sarah, and today we have a transformative episode for real estate investors. Whether you're just starting out or have years of experience under your belt, joining us today is Joey Pedroza, a true expert in the field who has unlocked the secret to investing in real estate without using his own money. Yes, it really is possible. Joey has perfected the fix and flip model and is now venturing into ground up construction. His approach, which includes using capital stacking and partnering with private lenders, is both practical and powerful, and every single investor needs to listen to Joey's method. This episode is packed with actionable advice and real world examples so that you can elevate your real estate investing game. This is a conversation you won't want to miss. Welcome, Joey.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah, for the introduction.
You're very
It's glad to
welcome.
be here.
I'm happy you're here. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I'm going to be honest with you here. I've already done a lot of podcasts, or quite a few, but this episode I'm the most excited about because I think what you're going to share today, it's what everybody's been dreaming of, and just think it's not real. You know, the
Yeah.
not using your own money, and why. I will say there's a personal gain for me in that. I get on social media, I make even podcasts talking about capital stacking, talking about real estate investing. And I'm sure people are like, okay, yeah, she talks about it, but does it really work? And so hearing from someone
That
that
was me.
does it well, I know, but you listened to me, you did it, and you've done it like so well. Like you've taken what I talk about and you've elevated it like so much. And so I'm just very excited to talk about it today. But before we get into those methods, I'd love to hear a little bit. I don't even, we've talked about this a little bit, but I'd like to hear, if you don't mind, sharing your journey of how you got into real estate investing and what initially attracted you to it.
Yeah, so I got into it twice in my life.
Okay.
This most recent round, I will say, was around COVID
Mm.
when I began, so just about 4 years ago. The first time I started was before the 2008 bubble burst.
Okay.
And that was ended up really badly for me. I didn't know what I was doing, and I just didn't have the experience to be aware that the market,
Mm.
in fact, sometimes can go down. Sometimes things can, go stale, and sales are very limited, and so I did not
Hmm.
know that existed. And that's how it got caught back in 2008 when I lost everything. But I guess I'll share quickly as I can. On the first round, it was totally by accident how I
Hmm.
did it. So no one spoke to me. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have TikTok back then
Hmm.
or anything like that. So what happened was I bought a house. It was my first single family home, my wife and I and our kids. And it was, I remember it being like $100,000, that one house. And I fixed it up. It's funny because all the people that my relatives didn't want me to buy it, and they were calling my mom, and they were like, your son got to stop him from buying this house.
They were telling on you.
Yeah, they were. And because it's all I could afford. This was
Yeah.
back in DC when I lived there, and that's all I could afford. There were only like two houses in my price range for sale back then. And I'm talking about, 25, actually no more than that, close to 30 years ago. And anyway, so there was this ad that said you could buy a house with only like $3,000 down, and we'll help you, right? And so I went to this hotel, and they gave me a voucher for $3,000, and they said, yeah, you could buy this house. So that's what got me started, was just that ad. I went there, and we looked. They connected me with an agent, and they only found like two houses in my price
Ah.
range. And so we settled on one of them that I fixed up. And so it's
Mm.
funny, here we go from a house where they're like trying to stop me to buy it. From the time I finished fixing it, they wanted to buy it from me. And so that was my first experience also trying to, fix a house, being a
Yeah.
handyman, all that stuff. And I can tell you, I have stories like my wife, just picture a hallway, right?
Yeah.
And I'm on one side of the hallway, and my wife is looking down the hallway, And all of a sudden, she hears a loud boom sound and sees my body fly across the whole entire room. And that's because there was a space heater, electrical space heater that we're getting rid of.
Yeah.
And I turned off the breaker for that side of the house, not realizing that the space heater is on its own breaker. And
Oh
so when I cut it
no.
through the cable through the wire cutters, the
Oh,
whole thing just, zapped it and just threw me back. And
oh.
so thankfully, I did not get electrocuted. I did feel the little, you know, uh, uh, anyway, so I stopped messing with electricity since then. I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Good
Um,
call.
but the house was nice. We
Mm,
lived there. After I moved from there to California, this was in the DC area. I moved to California. I rented it out for a year or so. Then I sold it. And that was the first chunk of money I got from
mm.
a real estate property. And then the home here in California that I purchased, it was a similar story. Actually, that was an interesting story, and I think I shared that on my TikTok. That it was a VA foreclosure, and it
Okay.
was a brand new house. I mean, the person never lived in it. I guess they were just relocated or sent got orders to go somewhere else,
Okay.
and it was brand new. No one lived in it. And the way they do it is they have closed. It's like a closed auction
Okay.
where you kind of put in your offer through, and then they give you to a certain date, and on that date they open all the offers, and whichever offer gives them the most profit, I guess, that's who wins. And so we connected with an agent that put in the offer, and he said on his own, I'm going to reduce my commission because most people are going to try to max out their commission to 3%
Right.
plus. He's like, I'm just going to put like 1% from me because I just want to get the deal, and they make money that way.
Yeah.
And that way your net will be higher, even if somebody's offer is more than mine. It's because their net will be better, or my net will be better for them. And so I remember that the night before was due, it's like the 17th.
Yeah.
I just felt like God was telling me, hey, bump it up.
Mm,
And and it was like $500. There wasn't much.
mm.
It was like $500 is what I felt, in my heart that I had to do. So I called the agent and I'm like, I need to increase it by $500. He's like, are you crazy? Like, what's that gonna do for you?
Right.
Like, it's like I just really strongly, I feel strongly that we need to increase my offer by $500. So he did so, and he called me the next day after he said, you won. And you
Wow.
won barely, barely. It
Mm.
was like he said it was about $100 is what I won.
Wow.
So that house, actually, I also did construction in that home. I
Okay.
added a bedroom and I added a loft to it. And it's funny because after I was done with it, all my neighbors started to do the same thing because it was a tract home
Yeah.
community and they realized what they could do. But that house doubled in value within 2 years. It
Wow.
was a short period of time. And I sold that house, and again, I got another chunk of money, and we bought another house, a bigger house, because I was having more kids. I have 4 kids now, and that house, same thing. We fixed it up and we did whatever, and then we sold it. We almost doubled in value from that house. And so it was at that time that I realized, wait a minute, every time I do this, I'm making money. I was like, what if I do this on purpose? What if I buy a house
Mm.
and just fix it and then maybe rent it for a year and then sell it, and I just make all this money? Remember, my history has been everything's been going up and
Right.
I was making money. And I was getting close to 2008 where I decided, you know what, let's go ahead and buy all these houses. And so I bought the house I live in right now. Was supposed to be an investment house that my wife came to see it because I was out of the country. And I said, hey, hon, can you go check out this house? Make sure I'm not buying something ridiculous. So I got the phone call. She's like, it's amazing. We're moving in.
Oh.
And so we basically bought it for ourselves, I guess. And then I kept looking for other homes, and I started buying them, and I started doing one, then two. And what I would do at the time was I would buy a house in a neighborhood. I would add on to it to be as big as the biggest house in the neighborhood. So I was forcing appreciation.
Ah.
And so I would buy a house, I would add on to it, remodel it, and then I would sell it for the same price as the largest home in the neighborhood. And so that's what I did. And I had a dozen homes when 2008, when the bubble burst. And so
Oh.
and I took out my equity for my house. because I didn't know other creative financing ways. I was doing everything traditionally. So I was
Oh.
putting my money in. So I took out all the equity from my home. I was basically getting myself in debt
Mm-hmm.
doing this because it was working. I was making money, and I even quit my job, and I was only doing real estate. That's all I was doing. Well, I say quit my job. It was my business at the time. I just stopped doing that. So I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life. And I was traveling the world. Like I was living the life. And I had a construction company, that was doing all these things. And I could just check on it every once in a while. And that's it. Anyway, the bubble burst. Nothing could sell. And I couldn't rent them out because they're under construction. I couldn't do anything with these properties. I had to see it through to finish them so I can sell them.
Yeah.
And even then, I wasn't making any money. I was
Oh.
just getting rid of them. And so imagine that with a dozen homes,
Mm-hmm.
that just became a problem. And a couple of them ended up going under in foreclosure. I was able to sell most of them.
Mm.
I even was offering people incentives like, hey, if you buy
Oh.
this house, I'll give you so much money or whatever. I didn't even know that's illegal to do. I don't know why, but it is. And so I just was trying to get rid of everything. So that was my first taste of a disaster. I had to go bankrupt. I lost everything, even the home I'm sitting in right now. That's a different story. How I'm still sitting here in this
Mm.
house. But we sold and got rid of everything. And then I figured then, okay, I played with this, I lost it all and then some. So from now on, I'm just going to work my business where I'm a software engineer. And I know every hour that I work is an hour billed. So it's money made, right? So my philosophy then was work, 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 work. So I was working 7 days a week. I was working 60, 70-hour weeks just to get out of this. And I will say this too, is that I had a couple of investors, basically only family at the time, where I lost all their money,
Oh.
but I didn't
Oh.
have the heart to tell them. So it was tough, but I paid them all off,
Mm.
and I even gave them a little bit extra,
Wow.
um, because,
You're
like I said,
making
I
me
was inexperienced.
emotional with this story, Joey.
I
I
was,
didn't know all this.
yeah. So you can imagine why I didn't touch real estate since
Yeah.
2009 is when all
I
this went down for me until 2020, right? It was over a decade. I couldn't walk to the Home Depot without getting knots in my stomach. Like I was just didn't want to deal with anything. It
wow.
was such a bad time for me. Um, but anyway, so that's what that first wave of investing. So now you would imagine, knowing what happened to me, I would not go into a deal unless I am fully capable of weathering any storm that comes my way,
Mhm.
right? So I have exit strategy upon exit strategy, funds. I have backups to my backups to my backups, right? Because this is not something I want to go through again. And so far, even now that the market is shifting, I'm okay. I'm not worried. I'm not, stressed because I already knew I need a certain plan of action, depending on what happens. And so that's where I'm at today. So in 2020, the way it happened, so the second wave, which is funny, involves the house I'm sitting in right now. Um, when we lost this house back in 2010 is when I finally left this house. We bought another house, and that's long story. This house, I only buy houses under one of our names. It's either my
Yep.
name or my wife's name. I never buy a house or any property with both of our names if I don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got rid of this house, it wasn't pretty. It was a short sale, I should say. My wife's credit was damaged, but not mine. So
Mm.
that's why I was able to go buy a house just under my name because we always knew that. And it wasn't on purpose. It was because back then I was buying homes traditionally, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I didn't know that the tools I have today existed back then, right? And so the idea was if I split the houses between my wife and I, then I can qualify for more houses to buy.
Mm.
So that's the only reason why we
Smart.
split it. Anyway, but to speed up the story, we went to another house, and then from that house, I got hit with taxes. Um, because I went from one mortgage to a smaller mortgage, and I knew better. I knew
Mm.
better to do something else, to limit my tax liability, but I didn't think about it at the time. I guess I had much going on, and my accountant was like, "You need to buy another house. It's either you pay the the government tax money, or you pay the money for your own asset." He said, either way, you're out the money, but you'll have something that's
Mm-hmm.
yours. So I said, okay. So we bought a cabin in Lake Arrowhead. He wanted me to buy a second
Mm.
home. So he bought a cabin in Lake Arrowhead, and we also Airbnb that one out so it could cover most of it. And it worked as intended. It helped with my taxes. We had a great time. I loved the cabin. And my wife wanted to live by the beach. And so I remember I was sitting in the house one day and I'm like, I'm only at home on my computer all day. Or I go to work and I come home, watch TV, whatever. I don't care where I'm at. So if you want to be by the beach, to a smaller house, that meant going to a tiny house, right? To
Mm-hmm.
live at the beach, you can't buy a big house. I said, I'm okay with that. So next thing you know, that was like a Monday or Tuesday of the week. But that Friday, she's like, okay, this is where we're going.
Oh,
Like she found a house
she
that
didn't
fast.
waste time.
Uh, um, we rented the home in San Marcos where we lived, went to the beach house. So now at this point, I have three houses,
Okay.
not on purpose. It was just how things ended up. So then we enjoyed the beach life. It was great. My daughter came back home, and she had moved out on her own, and she came back home because of some circumstances. And now we don't fit in this condo at the
Mm.
beach. So I'm like, okay, because I had two boys at home still. So okay, so we're gonna go buy a townhouse, the cheapest house I can find, and we're gonna go and live there for a while until she gets her own place, and then we'll come back. So now we did that. We rented out the beach house. We did corporate rentals, is what we did, because we wanted to use it part
Yeah.
of the year anyway. And that was great, the corporate rental. And then people rent it for like 3 months at a time or 6 months, and they will pay you prices that is not, you just can't get those
Mm-hmm.
prices at a typical rental. So that was great. And it pretty much covered all of our mortgage for that. So that was awesome. So we went to a townhouse. So now I'm sitting on 4 properties. And then my wife decided that she didn't want to go back to the beach house, that she wanted to, find a big house like the one we're in right now, where she could entertain our kids for holidays and stuff. Because we're trying to do Airbnbs for holidays, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Our kids have dogs, and you couldn't take dogs, and trying to plan it. It was just a mess. And my wife is like, I'd rather just have a house that we could entertain. So looking for houses, there was nothing we could find that was good. It was like these $1 million homes for this some small track home. Like it didn't
Uh,
make any sense.
yeah.
And so we kept looking and say, you know what, if I'm going to pay $1.4 million for a house, I want an ocean view. I want something, right? So we started looking for those. And then you go to these houses, they claim ocean views, and it's a little peekaboo, that you don't see it. I'm like, I'm not paying $1.5 million for this. So in the end, we gave up. We said, it's not worth it. And so we decided to just buy a lot that had an amazing view, and we just build a house from the ground up. So we found a lot, and then it was amazing
Mm.
view. And we went into escrow, and the same day, the people that owned the house that at the time that I'm in now sent an email to my wife saying, we're thinking about selling. Would you be interested?
Oh.
And so now we're like, okay, what do we do? So we knew what this house had to offer because we raised our kids here. It was 13 years
Mm.
that we lived here. We've been gone now at the time for 7+ years. And so we decided to go ahead and buy the house. And she's like, well, what do you do about the lot? I'm like, I'll just make that an investment.
Mm.
So we got both. So now here
Wow.
we are with 5 houses, and we didn't even, we knew what we wanted to do. So we decided to sell the townhouse. And then the townhouse, we sold it. And with the earnings from that house, $250,000 in 2 years, that was a lot of
Wow.
money for just 2 years. We decided to just fix up this whole place. And
Mm.
I know I posted videos about everything I've done here. And we added a swimming pool. We fixed up the backyard. It's just the house that we always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
We just, at the time when we lived here, we just didn't have the money to do anything. And so that was part of us leaving. It's like, why am I slaving myself to pay for 4 walls? I couldn't even maintain the place.
Yeah.
Like I was barely making it. And so that was one of the reasons why we decided to let it go instead of fighting for this. But then it's funny how here we are right back at the house
Crazy.
doing the things that we want to do
Yeah.
and affording it just fine, keeping up with the maintenance. It's like now we're almost anal about it. Oh, we got to call someone to fix that. We got to call someone to touch that. And it's just amazing how the story and the journey that I went through this whole process and ended up here. And I know that I shared this whole story to show how I ended up back in real estate was because during COVID, we wanted to go to the cabin, but I wanted to go to the cabin to be in quarantine in Lake Arrowhead. It's an amazing place to be. And nobody wanted to go. So I'm like, I'm paying that mortgage because at the time they froze all Airbnb vacation rentals. We couldn't even rent it out. And I said, so I'm paying that mortgage and nobody wants to go there. Like, what's the point? So I'm just going to sell it. I'm going to go buy something in Florida, right? So that's what I did. We sold the cabin. I bought 3 properties in Florida cash from the proceeds because the cabin also went up in value, right? And I bought 3 houses during COVID, the early part of COVID in Florida. So now I have those 3 houses generating passive income, and that's what I wanted to do with it. So I went from a cabin that cost me money to properties that are making me money, right? And that's when I started. And then I realized, wait a minute, those properties doubled in value in 1 year. So it was 2021 where I said, I could sell these houses and just pocket, double my money from all of them. And so I sold 2 of them, not all 3. I kept 1 because the tenant's amazing. So I don't want to mess with that. But instead I took out some of the money, the equity that I had in the property. So that's another thing that I started learning to do that I didn't do right the first time. But then in Georgia, that's where I do most of my investments. My brother there, he's my cousin, we grew up together. Long story, he was doing some flips himself, and I thought, well, maybe I could just do that. He knows where the properties are. He's a real estate agent. He obviously has done it. So maybe I can do the same thing. And, I have experience in construction, I have experience in real estate. So why not play a little bit with that and see what the market holds? I have my properties, I have my income, I have everything that I need. I can weather the storm. I know things could go south, right? So I'm going in this time, I'm going prepared, knowing or preparing for the worst, right? But in the middle of all this, that's where we met on TikTok, right? And so on TikTok, you were sharing how basically you could get money. That's with the capital stacking. And you were talking about the Burr method even, and you even talk about other things. And I don't remember all the videos, but I started thinking, I have money to invest now, but what if I did that instead? And what if that actually works? And then I can help other people do the same thing, because I'm always trying to help my family, trying to help friends, people get ahead and try to invest. And so what if I did that and it works? And I was, at the time, I always do 5 things a year. If you see my book, my journal, I have 5 things I want to try a year. And one of those things was this. I'm going to try this one thing. And I tried some like eBay stores. I tried some Amazon stores. I tried a few other tax liens. Was another thing I wanted to try out, because there's a lot of stuff out there. And the tax liens wasn't for me. The eBay store was too much work and effort. It wasn't for me. The company wasn't that great. And so I kind of kept crossing things off the list, right? But this one, I did capital stacking. I got way more than I expected to get.
Yeah.
Way
And
more.
remind me, what did we initially
Yeah.
think you were going to get?
I'm pretty sure they said between 50 to 75.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was the quote I was given, but I ended up getting double that. I got
Wow.
146,000, something like that.
Wow.
And so with that, I was gonna buy these properties in Georgia, and I was gonna buy one. But when I got, that much of a line
Right.
of credit, I bought 4.
Wow.
And that's what I did. I bought 4 of those properties, and it worked. The cashing out, everything that was said on your videos, how the process worked exactly as you shared. So I had the money, I got the loans, I did the down payment, the bank, all the draws and everything. I did get all the money for the construction. Like everything worked according to plan. There were a couple of things that I wasn't expecting that was different. For example, the only thing I could say, which is not a problem, it's just a matter of expectations, right? Is that I was expecting to get my money back when I did a reimbursement form a couple of days. Well, it takes 7 days, right?
Yep.
In some cases, sometimes you get it in 5, but it took a lot longer than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So I was planning for that to pay the contractors and people with that money. But once I realized that's how it is, I just adjusted.
Yep.
And now it just, now I know I gotta do it early enough to pay the contractors because it took longer. Then I worked with different lenders too that was faster. So I
Mm-hmm.
have one that you get the money sometimes like in 2 days or whatever. And so I guess it just depends on the lender. But the properties worked exactly as intended. As far as the construction, the rehab, the money, the credit, selling the properties, once they sold, I was able to, pay the debt off and keep my profits. And so once that was working as intended, I mean, I've done over a dozen already in Georgia for myself. And then I have other people that I'm helping there doing houses. So right now we got 5 houses under construction in Georgia. And none of them are mine, right? They're just from people that I'm helping, doing the same thing. So they're using my connections. They're using I'm basically their coach, and we're
Mm-hmm.
partners doing these together. So that way they can learn the process. They could be familiar what's going on, and they all have gone through the same process with you with the capital stacking.
Wow.
So I have so many people that I've been helping with capital stacking. Just now, yesterday, there's another couple that wants to invest in real estate. And they started the process. Once I explained it, they applied for capital stacking, they qualified, and they're in the process now. So I've been helping people left and right. I'm doing this. And I learned a couple of things. There are a lot of people that are interested in investing in real estate. There are a lot of people that's what they want to do, but they just don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know. They don't have the confidence. Even if they heard or watched videos on TikTok or whatever, they just don't have the confidence to step out and do it, right? They're not as crazy as I am, that I just go and I try things and I do it, right? So I have found that a lot of these families and people that are interested, all they want is someone that can hold their hand through the process and be able to help them. So through that, I also do some coaching. I also help them. Sometimes they partner with me or they do it on their own, and I just help them and walk them through the process. And that's what I found. Everybody that I help, that qualifies for capital stacking, that's what they want to do.
They just need it.
I did it myself, even though I had the money, because I
It
think it's better to use other people's money.
And so I want to back up on those 4 homes. You bought them, you did the rehab, you did
Yep.
the whole burb,
Mhm.
did the whole method.
Yep. Mhm.
So you did all that without touching your own money.
That is correct.
Wow. That's
Yep.
amazing.
Yep. So I have $146,000, and my average down payment was at the time about 32.
Okay.
So I was able to supply all 4 of them, and all I needed, honestly, to put down for like the construction was minimal. I would pay the
Right.
contractor like $10,000, and they were so quick to give me my first draw that I
Hmm.
would get all my money back that I gave them and then some.
Wow.
So what I would do is, what my strategy was, I know that demo is first. I know that replacing the windows, they could do it right away.
Hmm.
I know that the framing happens super fast and quick, and the rough electrical, rough plumbing. So all the things I know that happen first in the process, I learned that all I have to do was on my budget, I used to front load the budget to those tasks.
Interesting.
So if the windows were $4,000, I'll just put $10,000, right? Because the bank didn't necessarily care, how much it's actually costing me. They just care about the percentage of completion, right? But they determine that based upon your budget items. And so anyway, so once I learned that, because at first I
Right.
wasn't doing it that way. But once I learned how it worked, I was able to set my budget in such a way that I would get more than money up front so that I could pay the contractor
Mm.
as he goes without having to
Smart.
use my own
So
money.
smart.
So for example, if I did the demo, I'd say 5,000 for the demo, and I do the windows, 10,000 for windows. That's $15,000, right? Framing, I put another $5,000 or $6,000. So just those 3 things, I was getting over $20,000. Meanwhile, all that my contractor required of me was a down payment of about
Wow.
$10,000 to $12,000. And then every 2 weeks, I had to give them another 10 or 15, 20,000, but that was fine. I already had it. The bank
Right.
already gave it to me. So then I would give it to the contractor as needed. And next thing the houses were done in 5 to 6 weeks and everything got paid for. And that's how I did it.
And on all of these homes, I know
Mhm.
you have a certain number in mind, but you ended up making a profit on all of these, right?
Yeah. So my goal was to make $1 million in a year. And so I decided to just ramp it up, scale it, and do, six a quarter, right? And so that was really my goal, to do 6 houses per quarter. So by the end of the year, I will have $1 million. So I changed course of that. I might still make $1 million, right? The year's not over yet. It'll be done in August. But if I do it in 2024, which is very likely I will, then that would be something to celebrate, something to share. But I shifted some things because market changed. So I also started doing my own houses and helping other people do theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of didn't give it a fair shot for me to do six a quarter, because even though I'm doing about six a quarter, they're not my homes anymore.
Right.
They're people that I'm helping, which is fine. I don't mind that one bit. But now the market shifted in Georgia. And so it's the homes they were buying, the distressed homes, they're still there, but they're not selling. The rates
Mm.
going up kind of put things to a stall. And it's simple. The demographics that could afford these homes are looking for these homes. They are could afford, let's say, $300,000, right? Which was kind of like the average price was selling over 300, 325. Well, when the rates went up, they can no longer afford
Right.
$300,000. They can afford 275, 260. So it kind of changed what they could afford. So now it kind of, it's stagnant right now, right? So I had to reduce the price on the homes until it got to a price point that coincided what they could afford, and then I would sell them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was okay by me, by the way, because I had so much of a buffer in my
Margin.
houses that I still made decent money on each one. So I always want to make a minimum of $100,000 per house. That's my goal. And the reason is, if the market shifts a little, if for some reason I went over on my budget fixing a house, or whatever happens, that 100,000 starts to shrink, I can still make, 60,000, 70,000. And so like right now things are shifting and I'm okay. I'm still gonna make money. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna finish the houses that I'm helping people do. They already know, because I keep telling them, hey, the market's changing, it's what's going on. Houses, excuse me. Houses still not longer in the market, prices dropping. So we're okay though, because I made sure we had 100,000 buffer.
Smart.
So you're still gonna, double your money or whatever. And so everybody's okay, everybody's calm. And it's good because of how I planned it out.
Mm-hmm.
And funny story, my agent kept telling me, hey man, you're gonna keep losing a lot of these deals because all these other investors, they just care to make $40,000 to $50,000. That's it. You're saying that you want to come in making 100,000, because you're offering less money for these properties. I'm like, and that's okay. If for every 10 offers, only get one accepted, that's one good, project. And so we did. We just kept pushing that way, pushing it that way. I did lose a lot of offers because they said somebody offered more. And that happened. But you know what? I still got, 15, 20 houses
Mm-hmm.
that matched my criteria. And so now my agent tells me when we look at houses, hey, don't forget, make sure you have 100,000 buffer on there. Because he saw what
You're
happened. He
right.
saw the power that I'm able to drop the price $30,000 without blinking of an eye, because
Wow.
I'm still going to make $70,000, right? And so that is one way that I mitigate the risks of investing in real estate. So when I coach people and I tell them, this is what I do for these reasons. And now I'm living, what I was trying to protect myself from, and now I'm living through it right
Mm.
now. And because of my plan, I'm smiling,
Yeah.
because I could drop the price. I'm still going to make a killing, and everybody's still going to be making money that I'm helping. So they probably should appreciate the fact that some of it took longer than expected, because they're like, hey, Joey, I got my capital stacking. Let's buy a property. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's taking time. I'm sorry, it's taking another month to find the right
Mm-hmm.
house. And I said, I'd rather take longer and get you a good deal than go quick and try to take a lower buffer. I call it a buffer, and then you lose money or not
Right.
make as much money. And I know that every single one of them appreciates the fact that they had to wait
Absolutely.
because of that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So I want to, in a minute, I want to dive into kind of how you pivoted, but really quick,
Yeah,
I want to hear from you. I want to dive in my world for a second.
yeah,
Capital stacking. I know you've mentioned it. Obviously, I've talked about it. How, when
yeah.
you're talking to these people that are considering getting into real estate, how is it? I want to hear you. How do you describe what
Yeah.
capital stacking is? I mean, because honestly, I feel like you're an expert at it, so I'm curious how you describe it.
Well, pretty much, I don't get into the specifics of capital stacking. I just pretty much, when I talk, let's say that I'm in conversation with a friend or a couple or someone, and they're like, I really wish I could do what you do. And because everybody knows I invest in real estate, it's not a secret. Everybody comes to me for advice and stuff. And again, and so when they ask me, I wish I could do what you're doing, I just don't have the money. And right there, they just fell into a trap because when I say they don't have any money, I say trap. It's not a bad trap, by the way. They just
For you.
open the door for me to share. And when I tell them, oh, I don't use money. I don't touch my account. You don't need money to invest in real estate. Once I state that, they're like, what? And then I get to explain what it is. I said, I do capital stacking, 0% interest rates on these loans. And you can take that money to buy a house and you fix it. The bank pays for the rehab. You don't even have to pay for the rehab. You don't have to touch a dime from your savings account. And once I explain it that way, they're like very attentive and they're like, well, I want to do that, right?
Mm.
Because there's two hurdles here. One is people think getting in debt is bad,
Hmm.
right? And but it's only bad if you're trying to invest in something risky, right? But they already know they want to invest in real estate. So on their own, they already know real estate is a safe
Hmm.
investment. I want to do it. I just don't have the money to do it with. So the people that want to invest in real estate that don't have the money, they already got past one hurdle. Real estate is a good thing.
Hmm.
I know you can make money. I know it's a safe investment. It's still a risk, but you with the right planning, like I do, you can mitigate all these risks, right? So because of that, it's easier to explain to them. Well, if you do this, capital stacking, when you get your house and you sell it, or if you just refinance it, do a cash out refi, you pay everything off, you end up with money in your pockets, do with it as you please, you're good to go. Because they know already real estate is a safe investment, they overlook the fact that they're getting into debt with these 0% lines of credit. And so it's not a difficult conversation. It's just they don't know that exists or how it applies, how it works. And so there are people that have the money to invest. So that's a different conversation. They come ask me for help and they're like, hey Joey, let me let's partner on a house. I have money saved up. Let's go do that. All right, that's great. You have the money, we can move ahead. I say, and I always ask them, how would you feel about depleting your savings to nothing? Because that's what's going to happen.
Hmm.
If you invest with that money you saved up, which is great that you did it, it's an accomplishment. Congratulations, right? But what if I told you you get to keep that money in your bank account? How would you feel if you had money in your bank account while you're investing? They're like, well, obviously I would feel better, because they have money in their bank account. So I'm like, okay, so now let me share a different view here. So what if you took a little bit less profit on the sale of your property, just a little bit less, not a lot, just a little bit, right? Would you then consider not keeping your money and just still doing the investment you saved up for? Will you still consider doing it? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, absolutely. It's like, I will do it. So I say, if you get a profit $50,000 on this house, but I'm going to tell you, you might only now profit only 40,000, 42,000. Is that still good? It's like, oh, Joey, if I profit 20,000, that's amazing because
Yeah.
they do work for this, right? It's all done, by my team and different people. And so for them that saved the money already, they mostly decide, I'm going to do capital stacking anyway, right? Because using other people's money and this venture of real estate investing works. The other thing is the people that didn't follow that advice, they still did capital stacking afterwards. Because they bought the house, they put the down payment, did all the repairs,
Uh-huh.
they have no money in the savings
Yep.
account, very little. They're like, maybe I will do that.
Yeah. You're
That way
probably.
I have my money back in my savings
Uh,
account and replenish myself.
uh,
And so it's funny because the two people that didn't do it, they still ended up doing capital stacking once they
Interesting.
realized they already got the house, they did the
Right.
construction, it's on the market for sale as we speak. So they realized the plan is working. All they're giving up is a little bit of the profits
Right.
that pays for the success fee of the capital stacking. And so they ended up doing it.
Hmm.
So that's
It
why
was probably
um,
hard
yeah,
not to say I told you so, or you should have
yeah,
listened to
yeah.
me because
Well,
you
they
told
could have
them.
survived possibly, but
Right.
I always like having a nest egg in the savings account for a rainy
Absolutely.
day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this enables you to have that.
Abs-
Mm.
and one thing I commend you, Joey. I mean, first of all, let me back up. I didn't know your full story. So knowing that, it gives me even more respect for what you're doing now, because most people that had gone through what you went through would be shell shocked and say, I am never going near real estate ever again in
Yeah.
my life. That's the worst thing ever. So for you to be in it and it's just, it makes the story even more beautiful to me. It really does, because you have turned into, in a short period of, I mean, not relatively short period of time, you
Yeah.
have turned into, I consider you to be such an expert. I mean, the strategies you share, your methods,
Mhm.
all of it, and I know we can't do it all here, but it's
Yeah.
it's amazing. And I admire you so much. And another piece to that is, what you shared recently. So you've been going heavy in fix and flips, and then the market's changing, and some investors would go, well, even you with your what's happened, you would go, put the brakes.
Yeah.
I'm not, but
Mhm.
you've made a total pivot and now you're mastering a different area. So I'd love
Yeah.
to hear about that, because I was just awestruck when you shared that.
Yeah. It's funny because what you said is true. My wife and I, we wanted nothing to do with real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just God had different plans for us, I guess. And we're right back at it. And so, but I'm very confident in what I do.
Mm.
It's not a bragging point, it's just it makes sense. Like the numbers make sense, the process makes sense. And as long as you stay up to date with what's happening and the changes, you can flow with it, right?
Mm.
And so that's what I have to do. I got to stay ahead of what's going on. I got to pay attention. The news are always doom and gloom anyway, but you kind of have to, pay attention to that because some of it is truth and some of it's gonna come down the road. So I already kind of had a feeling that what we're experiencing right now was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had my one of and there's a little bit more to what I do, right? Because one thing is the finances. That is the easiest part in all this, which is funny because people might think it's the hardest. That is the easiest part of the process is the money. The hardest part of the process, in my opinion, is getting a good contractor.
Mm.
That to me is I actually have fired three already. So I'm on my fourth. I haven't shared those stories, but the thing is, you have to make sure you find a good contract. If you got a good one, that to me, that's the hardest thing to get, and you just stick with that, right? But my contractor, just to get back to your question, my contractor always was telling me, Joey, doing houses from the ground up is the way to go. You make money there. And I'm like, I know, but I don't want to wait 6 months to make money. I want to, sell my properties 3 to 4 months
Mm-hmm.
and make 100,000, 75,000 a pop. I'm happy with that, right? And so the only reason why I didn't want to do the ground up construction was because it would take 5 to 6 months for you to be done and sell it, right? And I don't, I wanted the money faster than that. And so, but now the way that the market slowed and what's happening, the house is still going to take, five to
Right.
six months to sell. And so I have the longest I think I was on the market to date was 4 months. But I'm thinking that was 4 months on the market,
Mm-hmm.
right? Till it closed. So that was 2 months of construction, 3 weeks being in escrow, or 2 weeks is usually what I take. And so it took 6 months anyway, right?
Right.
So it's like, well, if I'm going to take 6 months, why not go after these properties where I make a whole lot more money? And let's do that instead. And so I went, it took me a while to find the right lots. We've been looking for, it's been a while. Even before this thing got as bad as it got, we were already pivoting towards these lots. And I had in mind moving all the investors that are working on these rehabs, moving them towards these lots.
Hmm.
And so it's a lot more money to be made with the ground up construction. and those homes are in good school districts. And it's a different dynamic, different demographic. I mean, these are $1 million homes. And so there, the market is still pretty much hot, right? They're still selling, they're still there. And even if the prices were to drop a little bit, that's okay, because the profit margin is so huge, it's so large that it's okay. And so we decided to move there. So I have a lot of people I'm helping with capital stacking and stuff like that. And so this does cost more money. So it's not like if typical people might get, you know, $50,000 to $60,000. Some get, like I got 140 or more, or 100. But a lot of the people I've been helping fall under the category of anywhere between $50,000 to $75,000, which is enough, which is more than enough to get started with investing in real estate. The problem was they can't afford to do a lot on their own. So I'll give you a real example. So I'm under contract on a lot today. It's funny, the lot is $73,000. That was my offer they accepted. The down payment, when I get this bridge loan, of course, it's the same process. It is the same process as a rehab. It's just ground up construction. So the bridge loan and all that, I have to put down $103,000. So that means that somebody has to afford to put $103,000 for this deal. And also they have to be able to have a little bit more money to give the contractor down payment. So like I said, remember, most people have 50 to 60 to invest. So what I started doing was I spoke to them individually and I said, if we do a rehab and you're going to put in 50 to 60,000 on the deal, you might walk away with, you know, 40 to $50,000 cash profit, right? So you kind of double your money. I said, but if you do the ground up construction, you might walk away with $250,000. But they will put in the same $50,000. The maximum potential is they'll get $250,000, right? That's maximum potential. So I said, but obviously I need to pair you up with other investors. So I put 3 people to a lot, and they each put in $50,000, and they're going to get $250,000 when it sells. And so I spoke to them the process. I'm the mediator, right? Because everybody has different opinions and they'll have their ideas.
Yep.
And so I'm the one in the middle, and I'm the one that gives them their agreements. I tell them, this is exactly what we're doing. This is exactly what we're building. These are the materials. These are the colors. Like, everybody knows up front exactly what's going to happen, right? This is the price we're going to list the house for. And if we get an offer for this much, I'm accepting it, right? Because it just, somebody might be, oh no, let's hold out for more money or whatever. So I have to be the one in the middle.
That's smart.
So there are, like I said, this is a new thing, because I've done this before just on my own, so I don't have to fight with anybody. Not fight, I don't have to worry about differing opinions, I should say. Sounds really bad. I really love my investors and I love helping them. But that's the thing is, so by me being the gatekeeper, and so I have everything in writing ahead of time. I have all of that, so that way, and I say, if I get an offer for this number, I'm going to accept, right? And so there's also other exit strategies for some of these investors. I let them know, for example, I'll give you real numbers here in a minute. I say, if I do a cash out refi, because once it's built, we do a cash out refi to pay it off and pull out as much equity as we can. So that means we actually have all of our money back and then some at this time. And I can offer them a lower profit percentage if they want to walk away there.
Okay.
So, and the reason why I did that, by the way, is because I'm helping families and I'm helping people that did capital stacking. And if we wait too long, their 0% period will expire. And some just kind of need money sooner than later. So I said, how can I help them, right? Because that's my weakness. I want to help people too much, right? So I mean, how can I help them get out of this sooner while they're making money? And so I thought, if I do a cash out refi, and to justify their early exit, I just offer them a lower profit margin that they can decide, I want it. I just need my money.
Right.
Give me my 50,000 back, give me my 50,000 profit. So they doubled their money, but now they're out of the project. So that also means everybody that's left in it now has a bigger profit margin.
Wow.
Because somebody took a lower amount, but they still doubled their money. So it's amazing. I would do that all day if I were them, right? If everybody takes me up on that offer, then everybody's out of the picture and I'm keeping the house to myself. so that I can sell it. At that point, I can rent to do what I want. So let me give you the numbers. So these are real
Yeah.
numbers. These are real numbers. I bought the lot for $73,000, right? That's what I'm under contract on this lot. I got a quote to build a 4,000 square foot house for $340,000, right? So that puts me there about 410-ish, let's just say, to do the grading and the clearing and the driveway and everything that leads to that point, pay for engineering and all that stuff is about another $75,000.
Okay.
So now I'm into it just over $500,000. That's it. The last house that sold there just a couple of months ago for about that same, square footage, which is why I'm targeting it.
Yeah.
So for $1.2 million.
Jeez.
So think about that. I'm into just over $500,000 and I can sell it for $1.2 million. And I call that best case scenario.
Right.
And if I sell it for 800,000, 400,000 below that, I still more than double my money.
Wow.
So that is why GUCs is the way to go.
Yeah.
So a $700,000 buffer trumps doing 3 or 4
Absolutely.
or 5 of these rehabs, right? Where I would get 100,000 buffer each. So I had to do 7 rehab homes for 1 GUC.
I can see why you've made the switch.
So I made the switch.
Yeah.
Because I did not know how was I going to help the investors, people that I love to help, right?
Right.
To get ahead and to start building wealth. Didn't have the money to do this. I could have, which is why I was actually looking into it. I was going to do it for myself anyway. But once I spoke to people and I got good feedback that they all wanted to just jump in on one deal on their own, meaning on a deal with, even though there's other people involved, 100% of them said, let's do it.
Wow.
And so once I got that feedback, I thought, okay, so there's an audience for this.
Absolutely is. Absolutely.
And again, when they hear the money, they're like, absolutely, I want to, 4x my money
Well,
or whatever.
absolutely. And
So,
it's not, I mean, yes, you're doing an incredible profit margin, but I think the other piece that you're really doing here is you're taking away that fear factor, right? None of these people would do this on their own at all.
No, never.
It's almost a risk-free because you're so intelligent at doing this. You know all the steps to take, you know the paint colors, everything down to the last T, to where it takes away the stress, the fear, the risk, all of it. I think it's brilliant, but also you're helping people in a tremendous way, getting them into real estate that never would. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I've shared with you, we want to do this with you, and I help real estate investors. I know all this. But here's the thing, and I'll be totally transparent. I know all the strategies. I mean, every investor, they'll tell me anything I ask, so I know all of that. I know the lenders. I know the financial piece. I am still afraid. Like, there's still a fear if I were to do this on my own because I've never done it. Yeah. I don't know all the little steps and all the nuances and all the mistakes you've made, to where doing this with you, it feels like it's like a security blanket almost, you know, like it'd be comfortable to do. I'd still make money, but it wouldn't be such a scary experience as it would be on my own.
And that's exactly the conversation I kid you and I had with my wife yesterday. Because my wife is like, why don't you just coach people? Why do you have to partner with them? Why do you have to do it? And I told exactly what you said. I said, they just don't have the confidence to do it. And I want to be different. Like when I started coaching, I didn't want to just show you the strategies and give you the methods and be your one-on-one, counselor or whatever for consultant or whatnot. I said, why not? I show you by us doing it together.
I love it.
That's what I wanted to do for coaching. But again, that's limiting my capability.
I know, right?
Because I'm only one person.
There's only one Joey.
So people say, well, why don't you get others? And I'm like, I could. That's not the same thing, but I feel like that kind of.
No, it's not. No, there's only you.
It's just a little bit
it does.
I offer.
No,
but anyway, so that's why I do it the way I do it, because I want to be different. And I also know that if I tell them this is a problem, but this is how I'm going to solve it, and this is what we're doing, already people are fine. There was some of the houses I'm building. I say, hey, we ran into some issues. This is where we ran into with the city. We bought a house that was a historic. It was part of the historic district, meaning that to do any construction, you have to get approved by them, and that takes time. And so we're like, look, we bought this house. We weren't aware that it was part of the historic district. It's something new, and that's probably why it wasn't disclosed. But now we own it. We're stuck with it. So doesn't matter if people should have told us this or not. It's irrelevant. I gave them a plan. I said, we're going to take out 2 permits, one for the inside of the house, one for the outside of the house. The historic district only cares about the outside of the house. So I said, we're going to do this. We're going to do the construction inside the house. By the time we finish the interior, hopefully we have our permits for the exterior, and then we can put in all the new windows and the new doors and everything we want to do. And that was the plan of attack I had to take. Had a person done this on their own, they probably would have not
Never known.
thought of what they could do, what strategy they could do for the construction. And they would have been like, oh my gosh, now we got to wait 3 months. Now we got to figure this out. And they probably would have, and those are the issues that I'm able to help people with when we run into problems. I run into so many issues that for me, it's like another day, at the office. It's like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. It's funny. I'm the one telling contractors what to do, right? They're like, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Like, in fact, this strategy, I'm the one that suggested to the contractor. He's like, hey, it's going to take months. We can't do any construction for a long time. And I'm like, but that's only for exterior. Why don't we separate the permits into 2? And so he's like, that's a good idea. And that's what we went with. If we run into other issues, I'm always telling them, hey, let's do this instead. And they're like, hey, we have to wait for that. It's like, why? Why don't we just do this? And that we don't have to wait for this. So it's because not only am I doing this today, but like I said, back in 2008, I was doing construction. I know code. Code has changed over the years. I'm not gonna say I'm an expert, but I knew the whole process, right? I
Absolutely.
that I live here. And so that's why I'm able to share my experience. And the other thing I do too, is people that invest with me or that I help, right? When they do a bridge loan, because of their lack of experience, they're required to put a bigger down payment. And so when they're working with me, what I do is I become 20% owner of their company temporarily. So then my experience counts. So that way they put the minimal down payment. And then once they're done with the process and the loan, then they can remove me from the company. And that's just a signed piece of paper, nothing filed with the state or anybody. So again, there's strategies for every scenario they can think of. I can't spell it out right now, but we've run into, I did before.
Yeah.
This is what I did later. And so
Well,
that's how I help people.
and I can clearly see we're going to have a second episode because you have so much to share, and our time, that they cut us off at our time. But I want to have another session because you're just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, we didn't even scratch the surface on everything that you know and do, and I just feel like what you have to share is just so valuable. So we'll do a part 2. We'll do a part 2, and Joey, thank you. I not only admire you, but I just think you're an incredible human being. I really do. And you have a heart to help people. And I love that. And I think I just really, I love it. I love working with you. I love collaborating with you, all of it. It's just very inspiring. And thank you. Thank you for your honesty today and just everything. I just adore you. So thank you.
Thank you. And honestly, I feel the same way about you. I know you care about helping people. I know that you try to help every single person out there. When I say that's my weakness,
It
you
is.
smile and
I
wave
know.
because that's yours too.
It is.
And so I admire you as
Oh,
well.
well,
I
thank
love
you.
what you're doing.
Thank you.
I love you as a human being, and I really appreciate you helping me and giving me these opportunities.
Well, thank you. And we've got more to come. I know soon we'll announce our next collaboration that's going to help a lot of people. But this was to introduce you to the world, and soon we'll give the world an opportunity to get to know you better. So, thank you. And this brings us to the end of yet another insightful episode of Business Perfect Formula. I hope you found today's conversation with Joey Pedroza as inspiring and educational as I did. Joey's strategies for investing in real estate without using his own money, his expertise in fix and flips, and his bold move into ground-up construction offer invaluable lessons for investors at all levels. Remember, the key takeaways from today are the power of capital stacking, the importance of working with private lenders, and the value of staying adaptable in a constantly changing market. Joey's journey is a testament to what's possible when you combine knowledge, creativity, and determination. Thank you, Joey, for sharing your wealth of experience and practical advice with us. For those who want to learn more or connect with Joey, you can find him on TikTok. What is your channel?
It's Joey's Money.
Joey's Money.
_money.
Okay. And soon there'll be another way to connect with him, which we'll be sharing shortly. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, because your feedback helps us bring you more of the content you love, as well as sharing it with others. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll continue to bring you the best tips and strategies for business success. Until next time, keep striving for your own business perfect formula.